Hi everyone again, this is Jordi, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use one of the latest features of FakeXrmEasy, which is the support for custom APIs. Yeah! So, how can we use custom APIs with FakeXrm? So basically, custom API is like a custom action, but that will fire a plugin as part of the implementation. And that logic actually runs in the main operation stage of the pipeline. And like a custom action, the custom API takes parameters as an input and output parameters. And you basically read the input parameters from the request in the plugin, and then basically return the output parameters via the output parameters of the plugin execution. And like custom actions, you can generate strongly typed custom API requests as well. That's on a separate video if you want to check out. But for now, this is how can we use a custom API that was generated, for example, using FakeXrmEasy util. How can we use that with FakeXrm? And it's very simple. Basically, we go to the middleware setup and we add this single line of code in here, which basically is telling, oh, whenever you execute any kind of request, I want you to also search for custom APIs. And when you search for custom APIs, you do that in the assembly that I'm telling you. So this is basically like saying, search for any custom API fake request message that I have in this assembly. And I just need to tell it to search for the first one, and we'll search for all of them. And then in the unit test project, the only thing we need to do, so for example, of this demo, we have a single custom API, which basically is doing something very simple, takes two parameters as an input and returns an output, which is the sum, the add of those two parameters. So we have a sum request, organization request, that represents the input incoming request of the custom API. Then we have a sum response, which is the output. And we are telling it that whenever we receive this request and this response, then you should use this custom API sum plugin. Okay, and this custom API sum plugin is somewhere in source control, in the plugin that we are testing. So, okay. The only thing we need to do is add this fake message executor that by default will be in charge of passing in all the parameter requests into the input parameters of the plugin, and also returning those back to the request to the response of the request. So you know, one single class, and then this is the class, the other method I was telling you before we used to search. So whenever we find something like implements that interface, this class, then it will use it. And whenever we have this in place, we can go to, for example, to custom API some tests, and we can, whenever we execute this some request, like let me put a breakpoint in here, if I start debugging it, whenever we debug this request, then whenever it's executing the custom API, if I step through the code, well, this is actually behind the scenes, we'll call the custom API plugin, which was somewhere in this shared project. Again, this is in the samples repository, FakeXrm sample, so if you want to take a look, if I continue debugging this, you know, it will execute the custom API plugin like if it was doing it on server side, and I can step and debug the custom API, and so on. And this is one of the features we are releasing in this this version, but not only this one, but because the way we implemented this is that it runs in the main operation. We can use also, if we combine custom APIs with PipelineSimulation, we can also trigger plugins firing off that custom API. So, you know, you can when you deploy a custom API, you can tell to use a plugin to execute the core operation, the main operation, but you can also let a third party someone else register plugins against that custom API as well. So that is also supported in FakeXrm. So for example, in this case, we're using the pipeline simulation feature to say whenever someone executes some request, some request, whenever this name is received in FakeXrm, then execute this other some plugin. And whenever this happens, you can if you had multiple other plugins running against the custom API, you can register those using the exact same way. And then this some request would execute. Let me actually debug so you can trust me. If I start debugging this unit test, you would see that whenever this some request will, first of all, we register the plugin before the request is executed, obviously. And so when this request is then executed, if I put a breakpoint, for example, in that some plugin, which was somewhere in here, this is the actual custom API, which is also firing. But then eventually we'll fire off that other plugin as well we registered against the custom API. So you can buy, you can mix and match, you can bring some of the scenarios you would have to otherwise wait to be deployed for testing, also using PipelineSimulation with custom APIs. So I hope that was useful. Stay tuned and also subscribe, because then you will get notifications of not just the videos, but also any kind of new feature, new release, new documentation, everything. So thanks again for watching, and see you in the next video.